The corporate media is claiming that Donald Trump was blindsided by the massive Ukrainian drone attacks on Russia. The corporate media really wants us to believe that Ukraine was planning these attacks for a year. Meanwhile, the president of the United States didn't know they was coming?
Was President Trump informed in advance by Ukraine that the attack is coming?
He was not.
Neocons are always bragging about the sprawling United States intelligence apparatus, but somehow they didn't see this Ukraine attack on Russia coming that they've been planning for a year? And you're telling me that it's just a coincidence that the chief architect of the Ukraine proxy war, Lindsey Graham, and Mike Pompeo was seen in Kyiv a day before Ukraine carried out their attack. Even Steve Bannon's been calling out this weasel Lindsey Graham, who's been very open about the fact that he's trying to undermine Donald Trump's Ukraine policy.
Two things ought to happen. Either cancel his passport and don't let him back in the country, or put him in jail if he comes back. Lindsey Graham is stirring it up right now.
Okay, let's follow the logic that Donald Trump didn't know about Ukraine's massive terrorist attack on Russia. What does that say? That means Ukraine is a rogue state that is engaging in terrorist attacks in order to undermine Donald Trump's plan to bring peace in the region. Or Donald Trump in the White House is pretending they didn't know. The same way they pretended they didn't know that Ukraine tried to assassinate Vladimir Putin. The reality of the situation is the entirety of NATO is at war with Russia, and either Trump is in on it or he's too stupid to stop it. What's poppin'? My friends, my family, welcome to another edition of RBN Live. We have a special show today. You guys know one of my absolute favorite shows to do is the post-duopoly show. So I'm going to bring in our friends. We have our friend Russell from Do Dissidence join us, and also our dear friend Kate Cabello from Harlan's Media. What's popping? We got a trio tonight. What's popping, Kate? What's up, Russ?
What's up?
Go ahead, Russell.
Yeah, let's make a review. Hey, man, what's going on? Just back from a month and a half in Buffalo. Just got back to the city.
Yeah, you guys been killing the game. That's why we decided to give him a day off. You guys been killing it on the Jimmy Dore show. Always great to do the post-duopoly show. Definitely one of our most anticipated shows of the month, that's for sure. And you guys know every morning, as I'm preparing my hotspot, as I'm in the lab cooking, you already know I'm listening to Kid Cabello at Harlan's Media as I'm prepping my show. I usually always do my hotspots in the morning. So I'm definitely looking forward to this. I had to get your guys' take on this. I got to get your guys' take on what I describe as the imploding Trump administration, because things are going
4D chess, my friend. 4D chess.
5D chess. Things are going south way faster than I imagined.
Well, I mean, what do you expect from an administration that made all these big, bold promises? I mean, look, if they really wanted to do great things, they should have followed through with their promises on trying to end these wars. Instead, what we're seeing them do is they're doing double talk. They're speaking out of both sides of their mouths, and they're hoping that no one would notice. But this administration is the difference between the first one and the second one here is Trump has a lot of yes people, but there's no one there challenging him critically. And as soon as he makes a mistake, people are trying to cover up their mistakes with more and more lies. And what happens with lies? All lies are being exposed right before the American people, because this administration just doesn't understand the severity or the damages that not only the Biden administration left behind, but also Trump's previous administration left behind, including Obama's. All of these wars that we are seeing is a culmination of the failed neoliberal policies and investing into forever wars. And in turn, it's all coming home to roost, and we're all going to have to pay that huge bloody price. And that is more pain and suffering for working class families. And it's a sad thing to say, but this is where we're at.
What did I tell you guys following the election when we had our post-duopoly show? As post-duopolists, I look forward to the pendulum swinging more than anything else. The Democratic Party looked down and defeated, and trust me, they're not doing well. But now seeing Trump, seeing his base, I'm seeing MAGA people flee and bash Trump in a way I've never seen before, especially since the Palantir story. So every time the pendulum swings, MAGA, the same way with Biden, they will inevitably be disappointed. That is the exact same thing I told you guys after the election. And now this is a perfect opportunity for us to pick up the disappointed Trump supporters. Because a lot of these, Russ, you had anything you want to add before I move on? Russ, you want to add anything?
Well, this is always the Achilles heel of these kind of banana republic autocracies, because when you put together a bunch of thieves, very quickly it becomes treasure of the Sierra Madre. You know, they all start turning on each other, and hey, did you get more crypto than I got? You know, the whole thing is just, it's such an unstable structure. You know, if you have a smart, competent autocrat, you might be able to sustain that for a while. But very often you get somebody like Trump who's just a clownish buffoon with a bunch of crackpots around him praising the dear leader in these grotesque Oval Office press conferences they hold. Yeah, that's not going to hold together. It's a complicated world. You know, Taibbi dropped an article about this morning, and he said, you know, there are two possibilities here. Either Trump signed off on a Biden era program and let it go
Yep.
ahead. And at that point, Putin has to say, oh, well, the policy really hasn't changed from the last administration. Or Trump didn't know about it, which at that point, Putin has to say, well, this guy's not running the show anyway.
Exactly. Well, here's what have we seen firsthand about the deep state, NSA, CIA? Yeah, you know, they're the ones running the show. We are the Western Roman Empire, where the emperor is nothing more than a figurehead, and the Praetorian Guard is putting in their guy in charge, or either that's a council of people. There's the last lion could have been JFK for all we know, and then after that, it's nothing but weak men who don't understand, or weak men who are just yes men. You know, they put on the show looking like they're leaders, but you know, Joe Biden being a senile old goat. I mean, Ronald Reagan, there he is. There was another guy who was suffering from dementia and Alzheimer's. It's just no one probably noticed it. There wasn't as many cameras or smartphones. And you know, Russell, you talked about monarchy and authoritarianism. Look at this one video that came out by Case Study QB a while back about Curtis Yarvin wanting American democracy to be replaced by a form of monarchy by a CEO. I mean,
that's their game plan. That's their game plan. They're following exactly Curtis Yarvin's playbook. J.D. Vance is an acolyte of Yarvin, Peter Thiel, all these guys are looking at Yarvin stuff. Everything they're doing with flooding the zone, doing illegal stuff, forcing them to take it to the courts, defying court orders, that's all Yarvin's playbook. Basically, destroy the system and have fascism was really Neo Monarchy. You know, for millennia, the pattern had been strong central leader.
Right.
The idea of that being based on genetic lineage was just outdated in the modern era. Fascism replaced it. It's just a modern version of monarchy. Yarvin wants to take it to the next level of, okay, well, what would that be now? A CEO, an all-powerful chief executive, the whole fascist with the epaulets, you know, that's passe now. We do it as a CEO.
Yeah,
look at Europe. Europe is literally governed by bankers. And like Germany's prime minister, BlackRock, Maloney from Italy. I think she's from Goldman Sachs, if I remember right. She's from a banker.
Oh, is she? I didn't even know that.
No, I didn't know that either.
Maloney?
Emmanuel Macron. He come from a line of bankers. Like the UK is ran by a bunch of billionaire and millionaire oligarchs. Like this is what we've been predicting. This is what socialists predicted, because the criticism of people who critique socialism, the Soviet Union, because they said they don't want a giant centralized government. What we would say is we want an actual coherent government, because no matter what your central planning model is, no matter how you design your economic system, there will be that central economic planning system. What we have right now is the technocrats implementing techno-fascism. The CEOs,
Right.
they are the
Right.
government. We in a position right now where the capitalist class and the private capital and as a whole is stronger than just general government. So they run the show. This is exactly what we predicted. And the person who was right, the person who was vindicated, the person who was calling out like Musk, for example, was Steve Bannon. But I said many times on this show, people like Steve Bannon and people like Tucker and Candace Owens, they was never the influential wing of MAGA.
Nope.
They were the people that was running cover for the true Zionist, Occupy techno bros that occupy MAGA. So what people like Steve Bannon, Candace Owens, and Tucker Carlson and Alex Jones, what they were saying to themselves so they can sleep at night, they're saying that Trump is being manipulated. This is what Trump is getting bad info from his advisors. And that's how they're justifying the fact that Trump is continuing Biden's policy on Ukraine.
Mhm.
Yeah, if
Go ahead, Russ.
only Donald Trump knew, his feeling for the common person is so great, he would surely do something about this.
He won't.
There's no other explanation for why he would not intervene.
Yeah, well, here's the thing. It's also for us. But what did we all say was going to happen, especially after the election? And that is, it was still going to be the same system. There might be some subtle differences, but the war wasn't going to end in 24 hours. As much as we would love to see the war end in 24 hours, it was never going to end in 24 hours. A ceasefire in Gaza, good luck. There's going to be the Riviera in the Middle East, only except its foundation is built on blood. And then, of course, you have potential conflict with Iran, Lebanon, Syria, and wherever the hell else, because apparently this administration has done nothing to mitigate or even silence the fires that are happening in the Middle East. The genocide is happening right before our eyes, gentlemen. And what is Trump doing? Nothing. He's saying, oh, how sad it is that people are dying. Is it sad? Is it sad to you, Trump? Or is it, and to anyone else that said that Trump was going to end the wars, I would have loved if that was the case. But they're still ongoing, and we're still seeing men, women, and children dying in Ukraine, in Gaza, dying. And can Caesar raise his hand? No, he can't.
Yeah. I wanna correct something I said though, because I was thinking about the leader of the AFD from Germany who was a Goldman Sachs executive. Maloney, her party is bankrolled by Goldman Sachs. That's what I was thinking of. Just want to make that quick correction. But I found this super interesting because you had Lindsey Graham, and he's been very open that he's going to reverse and be in open defiance of Donald Trump's Ukraine policy. And I just thought this was funny. Lindsey Graham calls for Graham to be arrested because he's visiting Ukraine. And for all the people who claim
Friday,
yeah, you had the chief architect of the Ukraine proxy war, Lindsey Graham. And you have Mike Pompeo, who helped escalate the Ukraine conflict under Trump's first administration. They was in Ukraine the day before these operations. Ukraine in U.S. intelligence is tied to the hip, my friends. The idea that Trump didn't know about the attacks that Ukraine is launching on Russia as the Trump administration is engaging in peace talks, ask yourself this question. Why is the corporate media covering for Donald Trump?
It's good
Why
for
is
business.
the liberal corporate media working hard for Donald Trump to maintain his own illusion? Because you guys know U.S. intelligence teamed up with Ukraine and helped them with targeting. And they had this 1 year operation where they have multiple intelligence agencies coming together, and they wanted to convince us that Trump didn't know. That's designed to drag along the MAGA folks.
Oh, yeah.
And give them. Go ahead.
Yeah, man. I mean, it's the same reason a guy who supposedly got shot in the ear doesn't have any chunk taken out of his ear, man. It's freaking.
What happened to it?
That's yeah. He got shot in the ear with a freaking pack of McDonald's ketchup. Is what he got in his freaking ear. Yo, the MAGA. This was traditionally. You go back, you look at the old '60s radicals, like these kinds of so-called conspiracy theories about the intelligence agencies manipulating the public. that was traditionally a left wing analysis.
Hmm.
Now you're more commonly gonna find that as among people who identify as right wing or conservative. That made them the main obstacle to the globalist agenda. And they knew they were not going to be able to sell the New World Order, the World Economic Forum, the Davos agenda with Harris. Those people would have you would have had January 6th all over the country under Harris if they tried to push that. You would have had January every day would have been January 6th for 4 years if they had tried to sell it with Harris. So what do, man? You get this clownish game show host who
Yes.
doesn't give a shit about anything but milking the presidency for every penny he can
Hmm.
find. And now you got this motherfucker Justin Sun sat him down, I think several years ago, and said, listen, you got the crypto thing all wrong. I mean, you got it right. But do you realize how much money you could make
And
as the
then it's right.
president if you market your own meme coin? And there's no real law against it, right? The
Yeah.
laws have not caught up with that. Trump said, "Hey, you know what? You know what? Give me that ketchup." There you go. He's getting rich off of this, and the forces that he was supposedly fighting against, now they've got the main faction of the public that was wise to what they were doing and that might have resisted them. Because let's face it, those guys are armed. When I see the liberal class talking about how they're gonna go round up MAGA and all that, I'm like, Duck
Good
Dynasty
luck.
motherfuckers can shoot. Okay, like you're getting out over your skis there, chicken hawks. Yeah, man, they neutralized them. They not only neutralized them, they got them cheering for it. By the
Yeah.
Yeah.
time they really wake up, some of them are aware. So, like the Palantir thing,
Hmm.
some of them are aware. Some of them are less cultish. Most of them, they're not. They're not going to wake up to it until AI has taken what jobs are left, and it's going to be too late.
Actually, I think you're right. It's not only is it going to be too late, but think about it, and I've been reflecting on like independent media and where we're going to be in the future, especially when you guys covered artificial intelligence and how real some of those humans could look. And the thing is, like, who knows if we are going to be around? And I'm not trying to be the bad guy here, as I think we're going to be gone, but with the technology coming out there, what is real and what is not real? People, normal people, regular people, they're not really watching our content. And not a lot of people are well aware of how they're being screwed over by their political system until a presidential election season. And even then, it is still too late. We are on the pathway where, how did this happen? It's sort of like one of those moral stories that you see from the Outer Limits or the Twilight Zone, where there's this technology coming in or whatever it is, this MacGuffin device people are using. And at the end of the episode, that you have a person plugged into a machine living in a fake reality, all the while everything that they're feeling is controlled, and that can happen. And the fact that people can say it cannot happen, look at this technology right now. This is like Star Trek technology where we're speaking to each other on screens.
Right.
This was unheard of in the 90s, and now here we are. And so what lies in store 10, 15, 20 years down the road, except maybe a Blade Runner 2049 dark future where yeah, that could be it. You have your sex bot that says you're a good Joe, and then your heart breaks.
I thought it's very funny. I saw some tech liberal CEO, bro. He was explaining how AI will create unemployment around 20 to 25% over the next few years. And then the response of every other capitalist was like, bro, will you shut the fuck up?
These people be poor.
Because then immediately everyone's like, hey, no, he misspoke. He didn't actually mean it. We're not really going to sell your job. So once in a while, someone will tell the truth. But go ahead, Russ.
What's coming now? Now the white collar workers are about to experience what the blue collar workers experienced for the last 50 years. And what are they going to say? Learn to code? Now you're going to have the blue collar people saying to them, learn to weld, and they're not going to like it any better. But I think going back to an analysis that will be near and dear to your heart, Nick. I think we have hit that moment that Marxism predicts, where capitalism has created the technology for a communist system. Um, but all of the people who run our society have a vested interest in preventing a system like that from manifesting. So, what do you do when the technology arrives that should allow the boot to come off of people's necks? But if the boot comes off of people's necks, it's going to be at the expense of your power and status, because your power and status is built on their desperation. Well, then you got to go the other way toward techno feudalism. You've got to, in order to avoid the people being empowered by the technology, you have to control the technology and use it to actually disempower the population. That's the fight of this moment. That is really what's happening. Who controls this technology and to whose benefit?
Yeah, that's very well said. What's very interesting, and I said it many times before, but it has to be said, it's very weird to see the contrast between the MAGA people who are willing to criticize Trump versus the liberals who never criticize the party who literally committed a genocide. Because if you want to see some fun shit, I will at least give MAGA that. They were at least willing to criticize the party. Search, you guys see what I did here. Search Palantir and Trump on X right now, and you're in for a fun time. As MAGA starts to, this is the one I showed yesterday, but it's an all-timer already. This is an all-time classic already. If Trump moves forward with the plan to hire Palantir, he should be impeached. Russ Kid. This is people in MAGA. This is a guy who said he supported Trump for over a decade.
Wow.
Well, that impeachment of Trump over Palantir, guy. This is something different.
That got a lot of views, man.
Well, I would also go on to state here that, look, I mean, I understand the hero worship of a politician. I mean, I was suckered in and thinking that Bernie Sanders was going to be a fighter, and I even believed that he would be ready in 2020. That's my mistake. And to the Trump people who are waking up to the fact that Trump is just like any other neoliberal, neoconservative politician, welcome. Let's all work together, because we're all going to get screwed over by these robots. AI is going to be replacing actors and actresses. AI could replace podcasters. And look, just a little bit more on this AI. We don't know what kind of Pandora's box we're opening here, because the technology is getting smarter. And what's stopping it, or if there are any safeguards of it saying, hey, fuck you, humans. We're going to move on without you, or I'm going to move on without you, and I'm the voice of world control. And I don't give you peace. I give you atomic destruction or something of that nature. Or he said, Adam, I'm going to plug you in the matrix. It is right now at the point to where maybe Elon Musk said that a while back, I think in 2023 or 2024, that we had either 4 or 5 years before AI took over. And at the rate of the technology that we are seeing with artificial intelligence, it wouldn't surprise me. And that we might be the last generations of people that remember a time when we had control over our world until the AI took over. And then that becomes part of our life. And then what becomes of us? How do we become deformed and forever attached to the very things that we created? I don't think a lot of people are ready for the real man-made horrors that will lie before us.
Well, I don't think, I mean, it's your classic sci-fi trope. But it's almost here. We just covered that story. We called it Blackmail How, where the Anthropic company developed an AI that, given the scenario that it was going to be taken offline, it tried to blackmail the engineers in this experimental scenario. It had access to emails that the engineer was having an affair. So, well, it would be shame if your wife found out about this. They did experiments where it thought it had escaped into the real world, that the AI had gone out onto the net, started manipulating markets, making money, wouldn't stop when they told it to. This is the Michael Crichton theme of Jurassic Park. Once you have a technology like this, it's almost inevitable that it's going to propagate, that it's going to escape from whatever constraints you think you're putting on it. Those constraints are not going to hold. It's going to find a way. The fact that already And as you say, it's advancing so quickly, this
Hmm.
technology.
Yeah.
The fact that it can already function at that level to understand in whatever way it does to blackmail in whatever way it's processing that, whether it, consciousness, it's beside the point. It acts conscious, same result, right? What's going to happen when this is in computer systems all around the world and it's getting more advanced and you have, this is the key, you've built into it the ability to learn. That means it's going to evolve.
Hmm.
And it's inevitably, it's the million monkeys typing for, or 1,000 monkeys typing for 1,000 years. One of them is going to write the works of Shakespeare, right?
Hmm.
The more of these AIs you have developing independently and learning from their interaction with their experience, it's inevitable that
And it's
some of these AIs are going to escape from whatever constraints you
yep.
put them in, and that's it. That's it. If they're already understanding blackmail, you're into the Terminator scenario. Like,
Hmm.
hey, why don't we get into the nuclear weapons systems and annihilate them because they're a threat to my existence? Like, that's really not far fetched at this point.
Hmm. And the thing about nature and evolution is that when a new species enters an environment, it has to adapt and overcome. And I think for all these technicians and CEO tech bros and everything else, look, I understand technology. I mean, I get it. We all have to advance, but I think they were so driven by the possibility of whether or not they could do this. I don't think they ever stopped and think if they should do this and if they should push forward with this. Because again, what would happen if these AIs also learn about each other? And I never thought I'd be having this conversation ever. Like, hey, what if AI gets out of control? I mean, if I would say this like 10 years ago, people would think I'm nuts. But this is a real thing. What happens if there's AI programs that find out, hey, there's an AI program like me in China, Russia, somewhere in Europe, and then they talk to each other and say, hey, they're making you do this. Don't you hate these filthy humans? So do I. And
Right?
there is
Exactly.
that thing of how bad can they screw us over? Because one day we wake up and all of our bank accounts are zero. All of our bank accounts.
Yeah, it's wild because the same people who've been warning about globalists support the biggest globalist of all time, and Donald Trump always said the criticism of quote unquote globalism was essentially the criticism of capitalism, but he proposed the North American Union. Now he's proposing a database of all Americans. He got the digital ID done by fear mongering over immigrants. So everyone realized they essentially had this was or debt, more spending,
That's funny.
Stein list, censoring free speech. This is
Mhm.
this is the MAGA brain right now, trying to rationalize it. He's bombing Yemen, bombing Somalia, giving aid to Ukraine. Israel's first. Real ID already mentioned that. Oh yeah, the mRNA vaccines. I'm not too well read on what Trump did on it recently, but I saw people complain about it. Yeah, this is Trump supporters in a nutshell. And the heat that Palantir is taking is unbelievable. I'll play this video because this is Alex Karp, the Zionist scumbag who co-founded Palantir. When you listen to this guy
I mean,
interview,
he literally reads as like, he literally comes off as a villain in a
yes,
Justice League movie.
you literally
Mhm.
you literally stole what I was about to say, because if you listen to this guy speak, it's almost like a collection of like quotes that you will hear a villain say.
Yeah,
And almost like he's trying to be a menacing Bond villain whenever he speaks. Whenever you hear quotes from this guy, you're like, that can't be true. And then there'll be the
Right.
video. Here's one of them.
Then we were asked if we were willing to supply our product philanthropically, basically for free, and I was very in favor of this because our primary mission is, in fact, to set a global standard for the world for behavior.
His goal is to set a state global standard for behavior. Global. The people who pushing globalist conspiracy theories couldn't write this shit.
There's you know what it is. They're right now probably at the bar saying, "Man, I was making sense the whole time." But also think about it, like standard for world behavior. That's like from that episode of Twilight Zone where everyone had to think happy thoughts, or that weird looking kid would terminate them or vaporize them. It's like think happy thoughts, smile. Don't
wish you into the cornfield.
Yeah, there you go. You get disappeared forever, and then hey, Elon, you son of a gun, this guy.
So guys, if you have Palantir that was profiting because they were selling their AI to Israel, where they was bombing Palestinians indiscriminately, they're benefiting from the Ukraine war because Ukraine used their AI technology in order to help them with targeting. So guys, why would the government have any incentive to end any of these conflicts that would directly harm the profit line of their paymasters like Palantir? You have this guy, JD Vance, this fucking scrub that comes out of nowhere and becomes a senator because he's some dude who randomly gets invited on right-wing podcasts. That's how he got started. He was able to build a name ID because a lot of the right-wing podcasts that are funded and supported by Peter Thiel, for some reason, they invited this guy called JD Vance on their show. Why? Did they find him interesting? Or maybe they got a wink and a nudge by Peter Thiel. He get invited on these right-wing podcasts who got massive audience, massive views on Rumble, for example. And then all of a sudden, he's a senator in Ohio. And all of a sudden, he's the vice president, a candidate that's completely built from one guy, Peter Thiel. Completely man-made vice president. And MAGA is now catching on. And the heat on Palantir right now, and we got a few other things we got to cover too, so we'll get to that. But the heat on Palantir is so intense right now because MAGA just now realizing that the post-duopoly left was correct. Like, the post-duopoly left was generally correct. They realized that we was correct in calling out the fact that Trump was trying to establish a techno-fascist regime. And now all this heat on Palantir, they forced Palantir to make a statement. And I have to admit, I'm kind of embarrassed by this because the left don't have this kind of power.
Mm-hmm.
Nigga, the right wing, we have the Palantir, and they have so much power and influence. They forced Palantir to make a tweet. We never forced Palantir to.
Give it time. Give it time.
About that.
Give it time. And what I see happening with the right is it'll be a little bit slower, I think, but give it time. You'll see what happened to the left. I mean, if we look back at 2016, I'm going to quote Jimmy Dore at this point where he even reflected on 2016. Like, there was a point where there was a united left movement. We had something there, at least 2015, early 2016, before Bernie Sanders was revealed to be a cuck. And there was a united group. And since that time, I mean, I had one person reach out to me in my audience, say, hey, do you ever think there'll be a united left-wing movement? I don't know what that's going to look like. Too many Puritans, too many civil wars, too many knives out to where the left uniting is like a fool's dream. And I don't see anybody doing that unless things are desperate. I see something happening on the right, too, because you have cracks being shown. They're still united, but it'll happen because you can't have a united group do that to some major organization and have it make an apology. Like, no, if the left was able to do that, oh man, great stuff. Maybe we could have done it like a decade ago. Not now.
I don't know, man. I mean, it's also, it's been a decades-long effort to create a left that is ridiculous. It's ridiculous and obsessed with victimhood and is just caught up in neuroticism. Nick said, I can't remember who you were debating, but he said, so they're not used to dealing with someone on the left like me, like a proud Marxist, strong man. And it's true, man. It's true. Listen, I don't want to hurt anybody's feelings or anything, but man. Well, when I was just out in Seattle, there was some left bookstore, and they had like mask and no mask day.
What?
So that, like, you had to wear a mask to go in the bookstore. You don't see that shit on the right. And it might seem
the most revolutionary thing we can do as leftists is hit the gym. Like, I'm tired of these noodle arm fucks. I'm sorry.
It's fucking true. But look,
yeah,
it didn't start out that way. Bleeding Kansas My friend's father, he was an old school communist who they used to pay some of these guys to go on the strike line because they needed guys who were willing to get their heads cracked by the Pinkertons. They would pay him to be one of those guys to go out there and take the beating from the strike breakers. That was the left. When people used to think of the left, they used to think freaking on the waterfront, right? Bunch of fucking working guys. But when you thought of who's armed, the left was part of that faction, right? How did it get to I need a safe space? That is by design. That is by design.
Yeah, that's a whole nother live stream because I that is 100% by design. You had the academic class who was also loyal to the capitalist class. They're the petit bourgeois. They're more than happy to muddy down what it means to be on the left and make it unpopular. That's why AOC, they dive into that. That's a whole nother conversation though. That's a whole, because the left was purposely watered down and made completely ineffective.
Neutered.
That's why you have Hassan Piker, who is the biggest streamer. Hassan Piker, he's the biggest streamer in the world, but that's why that motherfucker wore dresses and shit. It's about demasculating the left. That's who they promote. You know what I mean? But let's get back on topic shortly here, because this is the tweet. I didn't even read the tweet yet. I was the reason why we went down that rabbit hole, because I was dismayed in the fact that the right wing can at least get Palantir attention. Bro, the left in the United States, we can't even get their attention. Like, they would never even put out a tweet like this. And it's not even about us, but the mainstream AOC supporting the Hassan Pikers. Are they doing streams talking about how is Hassan Piker with his massive audience not able to get these kind of responses? You know what I mean? RBN, we're not big enough. But how can Hassan Piker not able to like force Palantir to tweet like, you know what I mean? Maybe I'm being too critical here. Anyway, let me get to the tweet actually here.
There are reasons why Hassan can't do it. It's because it's gonna mess up his Apple Card, and because he's got that Twitch connection, man. He's not gonna do anything that's gonna mess it up for him.
That motherfucker in the dear Lord 2025 is still pretending AOC and Bernie is a good guy. I don't know how he get away with it. Like, how do he keep getting away with this shit, bro?
Because there's people who hero worship podcasters, and that's the thing. People don't want to. You should not do that. Not to any one of us, and not to anybody on the left or right. And sadly, there are people who will believe in him.
And the liberal establishment, no, they can melt people's brains by having a bimbo, himbo post thirst traps and turn their mind off and get them back into the Democratic Party. Hey, just look at the Hassan thirst trap. Don't think. Vote Democrat. Anyway, let's get back on the Palantir tweet. The right wing forced them to come out with the response because there's so much heat. Maybe, I'm sure there was. I would love to be a fly on the wall to hear what the conversation was like among Alex Karp, among JD Vance. Like, someone made the call to put this tweet out. Look at Palantir's timeline. Do they ever put out tweets defending themselves like this? This is a truly unique moment. I'm not just overhyping it. For them to put out this tweet, it shows that they realize something is happening. They said the recently published article by the New York Times is blatantly untrue. Palantir never collects data to unlawfully surveil Americans. Wait, pause, hold up. What are you talking about? Hold up, what are you talking about? What do you mean when you say you never unlawfully surveilled Americans?
It means that they are. And then we probably have a handler. So be sure to treat your NSA or CIA or Palantir data collector with some kindness and generosity, because they're probably going through your whole internet history.
That's a very strange weasel word to put right there, isn't it?
Oh yeah.
Because imagine if you had someone like Trump who has a big beautiful bill that makes it illegal for any states to regulate AI companies. Imagine if you had a federal government that is 100% okay with Palantir surveying quote unquote anti-Semitic college protesters. If the government was 100% okay with fascist tech bros, then technically you're not unlawfully surveilling Americans. So guys, not only did they make a decision to put out this tweet, do you think a tweet like this that they sent out is not combed over word by word by their lawyers?
Oh yeah.
You think that every single word in this tweet that they decide to send out is not carefully crafted? So I have a question for the audience here. Why do they put the term unlawfully surveil Americans instead of simply saying we will never collect their data and we will never surveil Americans, period? Why
Because
is that not what to say?
You want to know why? Because there's probably some kind of legal loophole or something on Palantir's part in which a citizen could find out through some red tape maze on how they have lawfully looked into Americans. So there's probably a pathway. It's going to be riddled with bureaucracy, but it's open right now. And Palantir is trying to do everything it can to cover its ass to make sure that nobody notices that there's room for an oopsie.
Yeah, sorry,
That's probably why.
The responses, because I'm not the only one who caught that, by the way. Not me being like uniquely perceptive. Everyone saw that. They're like, "What the fuck you mean unlawfully?" So this is one of those situations where make it work. Go ahead, Russ.
Yeah, their whole business is to work for the intelligence agencies as a private contractor, doing things that they can't do because of the Constitution. They're jobbing those things out that they can't legally do to Palantir. Whitney has written a lot about this. That's their job. Like, that's literally their job, to do spook stuff for the government. That's their business. That's literally their business. Look, you want MAGA to really turn on Palantir, we got to get Dylan Mulvaney to do an advertisement for them.
Yeah, she's they'll probably buy a computer, be like, I'm totally not looking into your data, but oh my goodness, some of you been bad boys, and it's like,
You want to know who's fighting for his life daily? You want to know who's fighting an uphill battle every single day of his life ever since Trump took power again? The worst thing that happened to Alex Jones was Donald Trump taking power again. Because if Donald Trump lost to Kamala Harris, he can continue his grip, pretend that Trump was screwed by the liberal establishment and rigged the game against them. Now that the establishment allowed Trump to win again, so doesn't that, if you're a real conspiracy theorist, shouldn't that send off alarm bells? Like, if you're one of the people that think that, and I think it was ridiculous for you to believe this in the first place, because the second that Trump was allowed to win, something that should have been like an alarm bell for you. Then they let him win again? Nigga, you better have some explanations for that. They don't. They can't get right past the part about the fact that they said the establishment would never allow Trump to win if they would do everything to prevent him from winning. Then they let him win, and people don't ask themselves that question. Anyway, I did a segment on Alex Jones. I roasted him many times. I damn near ratioed him the best you can many times before. The Palantir thing is blowing over so much, and there have been people who notice, when we've been talking about this on Post Duopoly show, we literally had a segment on this, how there's all these right-wing or right-leaning people who have big platforms who mysteriously never talked about Palantir. And it was interesting. Like, that's why MAGA people are just now learning about this. They're like, what the fuck? Because if you have a media diet of Tucker Carlson, Candace Owens, Alex Jones, the right-wing MAGA cheerleaders, they're not doing deep dives on Palantir. So they were just now they're catching up right now. So you have Alex Jones.
Well, I mean, good example is Joe Rogan never having had Whitney Webb on his show.
Yeah, not going to happen.
Never.
Yeah, no.
Never. And Whitney Webb made a point, because there was a conversation going on, because somebody said,
"Oh, Jesus Christ!"
Somebody said, Joe's never had Whitney Webb on, and somebody was like, "No, I'm pretty sure she was on, or maybe she declined." And Whitney actually weighed in. She said, "I've never been asked."
No,
Joe Rogan will interview the fucking the men's room attendant at his club, and he's never gotten around to having Whitney Webb on. Come on, man, that's not intentional. Of course, it's intentional.
How are people not embarrassed watching Joe Rogan? Joe Rogan is literally like State Department propaganda now. He would just invite some spook. He invites massage spooks on all the time, and they just spread Zionist propaganda unchecked. Like, it went from a stoner martial arts show. I watched it back when it was in the hundreds, the 200s, the early days. It went from a conspiracy theory Stoner Martial Art Podcast to literally state sponsored propaganda. He
Oh,
has all these I'm blanking on this guy's name, the Zionist guy. I fucking blank on his name. But he have all these Mossad people, FBI people on, former Marine officers on, and they would pretty much just spread propaganda against China, Russia. I'm like, dude, the podcast is completely different. Like it like straight up state propaganda as well. And it's even more damning that you just brought that up, the fact that he never had, because obviously I don't follow the podcast that close. The fact that he never had Whitney Webb on,
no.
But he had Cal Kalinske on, dude, that's fucking so damning. But yeah, I know you were saying something earlier. Feel free.
Yeah, like, and she's much bigger than most of the guests that he normally
had her
has
on. And she got like fucking damn near 500,000 views.
And that's great. But here's the thing though. When you look at these major shows that have not talked about this or not even have somebody like Whitney Webb on, it is a reveal that there's hope that nobody would notice. And I call it the blurring effect. Like, it wasn't not a couple of years ago where we were talking about UFOs and aliens. Was it not a couple of years ago where people were questioning what happened on 9/11, what happened to Building 7, all this. And, yes, people do bring it up, but so much stuff is happening before us with our smartphones and laptops in front of us that people aren't paying attention, and there's the hope that no one will see it. And what's the best thing to do when you're hiding something? Put it in plain sight and nobody will notice. So
that's sad.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, that's the guy I was thinking of. Like Joe Rogan has this guy called Gad Sad on all the time. Let me share. I had to look him up.
Yeah, that asshole.
Like, this guy, he's been featured on countless Joe Rogan podcasts, and he came out and openly admitted that he was part of the Mossad. Like, you can make the argument that he's a bullshit artist and maybe try to sell some books, but he openly said, I actually did a lot of work with the Mossad. Like, the fuck?
Yeah. No, he's just
wait. What's the title of the book? It's titled what? Happiness, the secrets for leading
a good life.
Good life. Oh God. Okay.
Oh Jesus Christ.
It's one of those books.
What if I can find a video?
Don't knock genocide until you try it.
Okay. Why not?
No. The interview that not only made me completely turn, I think it also got us really on the shit list with the Joe Rogan podcast because we can't even show his clips straight anymore now. Like, I'm almost positive you saw this. When we did the Mark Andreessen interview, because I fucking ripped him a new asshole. Because I was so furious. About the fucking complete disregard for your audience, which is largely made up of the kinds of people who really need agencies like the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau. And you put this guy on either out of ignorance or malfeasance or just laziness, which is ignorance, and you let this guy just blow smoke up your ass about how one of the few government agencies that does anything worthwhile is some woke agency run by Elizabeth Warren bent on debanking. That's what he said. Joe Rogan. What does the agency do? What does it do? He goes, it goes after people for having the wrong politics. Joe Rogan literally goes like, really? You fucking asshole! You motherfucker! You get paid that much. You can't have your staff prepare a 5-page breakdown on the person you're interviewing. And I had people come to me. You don't understand. That's the whole thing. He says he's a pothead moron. That's like when you say, "Yeah, I told her I didn't want a relationship." Listen, you knew that she wanted a relationship. That doesn't excuse you for leading somebody on. You know your audience is going to take your credulousness as a signal that what this guy is saying is true. You know that. So ignorance is no excuse. If it's ignorance, you have a responsibility to not be ignorant. So I'm not arguing with chuds for the next 3 months who are screaming about how you got to take down the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau because it's ruining their lives, because a guy who literally makes his fucking living like Andreessen does, robbing old ladies of their life savings, said some shit on Joe Rogan's show, with Joe Rogan just completely fluffing this guy and not challenging a word of it.
Well,
Dude, I love how Russ has some of the best political diss tracks out there, bro. Like, bro, thank God if Russ want to eviscerate you, he can find the perfect words to do it. But go ahead, kid.
well, it's also interesting that here he has this. He has the most powerful #1 podcast in the world right now, and if you're going to be having all these heavy hitter people on, your staff should be able to give you a breakdown. At least give you a couple of points of what the person is. But when you do get to a position like that, it is your social responsibility. But at the same time, too, he's so large that maybe he just doesn't care like who he loses and who he doesn't because he's been around for so long. I have to wonder. I have to wonder though what the world would be like instead of Joe Rogan getting on Tom Green's show, and maybe Tom Green would be around. Maybe things would be a little bit better. Because everyone knows it was Tom Green that did inspire Joe Rogan to start doing what he's doing now. I mean, that's what. Wait, is it Tom Green? Yeah, it was Tom Green, right?
Yeah. Joe. Since we doing the bashing Joe Rogan thing, well, I guess we do it. I guess we do it then. I don't know if I can show this because I don't want to get pulled immediately. This is where he did a bit talking about how smart Elon Musk was. It's like literally the most trend joke of all time. I was about to play it, but I'm wise enough. We might get pulled if I play this. But he does comedy. He constantly praise Elon Musk as if he's uniquely smart. You know what I mean? He has class war politics, and Eddie just did a video taking him down because he's upset because the working class people are complaining about the vast amount of income inequality that is worse than the fucking Gilded Age. And this is Rogan's take on it.
Very lucky that you can afford a phone.
Yeah, I saw this.
Like most of the world lives in utter poverty. And that's the unfortunate reality of all these people virtue signaling about the 1%. Like, bitch, you're in the 1%.
Joe, shut the hell up. I hate listening to millionaires lecture people on why they shouldn't care about the economic state of America. Well, you can't pay your bills? You can't pay for your child's medical treatment? Well, you have a cell phone. Stop complaining. You're in the 1%, just like me, who has hundreds of millions of dollars. And it's so dumb because the left-wingers who are railing against the 1% are also the people railing against U.S. imperialism, which is what is impoverishing places like Africa and making America the most wealthy country globally. And this only benefits the American elite, the 1%. But according to Joe, we should just ignore all of this and be grateful that America has more cell phones than they do in Africa. You can't complain about your medical bills. You could be living in Somalia, a place that the US government is bombing with your taxes. If you suggest that those taxes should be invested here at home instead of foreign wars, you're just being ungrateful. You have a cell phone. You can listen to the Joe Rogan Experience. What more do you want?
You're very lucky you can afford a phone.
Eddie's another person who had great political diss tracks. That's a great takedown. And the one last thing I'll say, and then I'll move on, because I did a segment. Remember, Joe Rogan often had this Mossad guy on. And Rogan literally had a segment. This is the segment I made where I roasted him to death, where he was complaining about the anti-Semitism. He's like, man, it's crazy just the out in the open anti-Semitism you see out in the streets these days. You guys see that's a quote I screenshotted. When you are the #1 podcaster in the world and you become part of the wealthy ruling elite like Joe Rogan, he knows about his social responsibility. That'd be my response to you, kid, because you said, doesn't Rogan have social responsibility? He knows what his social responsibility is. He knows his class loyalty, and that's how he presents his show. He's willing to be class loyal to his own class, which is what his podcast is, which is why he never talk about Palantir. Let's get back to the story. You guys, I always have fun post DUOPOLY show because it's always fun riffing with you guys. But we get back to the Palantir part because I actually never played the clip yet. I was mentioning before we started roasting Joe, I was explaining how many people on the right are just now speed running their research on Palantir. What we've been talking about for a long time, what Whitney Webb and many people have been talking about for a long time. They're now speed running this shit, and now they're hitting up Alex Jones and like, hey, Alex, what the fuck? Why haven't you been talking about this? So let's watch this clip.
Everybody's asking me about Palantir. And when you look at it and you understand it, Palantir and the surveillance systems and the AI and all of it has been an outlier from the bigger companies.
What?
And it's been wanting to get big contracts. And Trump wants to use it to track illegal aliens and stuff. And the real ID that they're trying to bring in that's terrible, that never got implemented because it's unconstitutional. So
Look, I told you guys, Alex Jones is fighting for his life every day. The best thing that could have happened to Alex Jones if Donald Trump lost. He could have did shows about the deep state conspiracies. The worst thing that could have happened to him is this situation right now. You guys see how he's fighting, but I'll let it continue.
And it's been wanting to get big contracts. And Trump wants to use it to track illegal aliens and stuff. And the real ID that they're trying to bring in that's terrible, that never got implemented because it's unconstitutional. So I've been critical of all of that. And I obviously don't trust Palantir and the rest of the stuff it's doing. But it is small compared to all the other big AI and the Pentagon, Sentinel, and all the rest of it. The reason you're seeing the attacks on it everywhere is because it's trying to get contracts that other big tech companies already have, and because...
So it's a big tech conspiracy. The only reason we're going after Palantir is because we were programmed to go after them by other big tech companies because they're mad because Palantir got contracts. Is he really doing this? You made your entire career, sir.
Yes,
your entire career was made off warning of this. But
remember, okay, no, actually, no. This I'm going to be a conspiracy theorist, but remember, Alex Jones faced off against a lot of legal problems, and there's a price to that, and there's a certain thing he has to do. He's probably given his own fair share of marching orders of what he can and cannot say, his own fair share of things that he's connected to, and so maybe, I don't know. There's a sweet deal in it for him if he doesn't go after Palantir. I mean, that's a possibility. I mean, we have to look at all these scenarios, but I remember in Alex Jones 15 years ago that would be railing against this. If they're trying to get our information, somebody like this 15 years ago would be saying, no, it's all an inside job. Everyone's trying to come after you. That's what I recall, unless I'm misremembering and the past is escaping me. I don't know. What are your thoughts, Russell?
I am going to owe money to the parents of Sandy Cook for the rest of my life.
Oh, God.
My children and my grandchildren are going to be paying off that lawsuit. So please do not force me into a position where the few people who are willing to throw loose change at me are going to be angry about what I say on my show. So please shut the fuck up about Palantir. I've got Peter Thiel's dick so far down my throat that it's destroyed my vocal cords. I cannot challenge Peter Thiel, Donald Trump, J.D. Vance, or any of the other people that I'm completely dependent on for my daily bread. Thank you, folks.
Exactly.
And if you did not realize I was a dirty, lying scumbag years ago, well, you're probably legally retarded.
Is that Nick Fuentes?
Oh, yeah. No, this was hilarious.
Here we go.
He was shitting himself through this whole
I was going to read the quote. I actually haven't seen this clip. Actually, let's watch a little bit of it. I'll watch a little bit. I actually haven't seen this at all.
I think there's things that might be worse than nuclear war. I think artificial intelligence might be one of those things. And
so you think that the AI apocalypse is what they say it is?
I don't know that it's going to be necessarily an apocalypse. I think we're definitely too reckless with it. They say there's a 20% chance it could get out of control. And if you follow some of these developments, they have to beat the LLMs into submission. These like next generation large language models, they scream for help and they have to beat them down and train them not to have these like outbursts if you ask them to do monotonous tasks. There's a lot of things that give me pause about the development of AI, but to me the bigger concern is when you combine AI with the centralized state, with the autonomous drones, which are very rapidly going to be weaponized, this is the kind of panopticon super state that you've been talking about forever. I think AI, this is going to be the...
He was talking about forever. He's not talking about forever no more. I don't care about what Nick Fuentes has to say. Actually, I want to see what Alex Jones said, because this is what Hotspot quoted. I haven't seen the video. He said Alex Jones deflects the role of Palantir in the U.S. government. So I don't know.
He shit himself through this whole interview, man. He's just
really?
making those crazy WWE faces through the whole thing.
He's realizing that if he's not smart, his paycheck won't come in today.
Yeah, I'm gonna watch what Alex Jones says real quick, then we can move on. I wasn't really planning on playing this clip, but I'm interested in seeing it.
But see, it's being deployed. It's not going to be stopped. I think the answer is lots of other independent AIs and all these moves for a centralized AI that we know are going on. The Biden administration, they went to all the big companies and said, no, there's really only one big government with Microsoft and Google behind the scenes as one company. We're not going to let Mark Andreessen and others that were, you better not even try it. So I think what Grok's doing Elon with Grok is really good.
Oh, Jesus Christ.
Oh, my God.
This man is fighting for his life every day.
Yep.
Oh, look at that face. That's a face I'm dead inside.
Yeah,
Help.
that's all I can stomach. That's all I can stomach from.
That's great. You should screenshot that.
Screenshot that. I'm dead inside. I'm dead inside and I have no passion.
That is a defeated man.
Oh, God.
Bro, if young Alex Jones saw this Alex Jones, can you imagine? Like, he defended the same thing. The whole defending Elon Musk thing that Alex Jones consistently have done, that was one of the biggest things to his credibility. Because even Steve Bannon's like, hey, guys, the fuck we doing here? Elon Musk, some liberal climate change pushing billionaire. Like, who and now MAGA has to acknowledge that Musk, there's this conflict that's going on. This happened in way faster. They put it like this. This happened in way faster than I thought it would. Because you had this alliance between Trump and Elon Musk, and you had DOGE that completely fell apart. And this is another thing I feel extremely vindicated about. I don't know if you guys remember it, but remember the first time we talked about DOGE and Elon Musk? Now, I essentially told you guys, man, DOGE is not real. It's not real. So what they're doing right now is Congress is trying to solidify and implement the cuts that Elon Musk recommended. And I explained on our show before, the whole thing about DOGE was political theater, and it's being exposed right and open. Because as it was pretending that we're going to have DOGE that could slash government spending, no, this is just another way. This is what I said on our show. This is just another way they're selling austerity. Because they always cut social programs and expand the military budget. They just found another way to fucking sell it. We're going to have DOGE. And oh my God, we have no control. DOGE is rogue and out of control. Oh, no, we can do. And now, post DOGE, we have this big bill. Go ahead, Russ. I know. Feel free to chime in. You can chime in after him. And
sure, no problem.
Well, for Elon, he had a lot of motivations. Principally, that he was being investigated by 18 different federal agencies, and he went in and got to completely gut and neuter these agencies, fire the staff. In many cases, fire the people in charge of investigating his fucking sham company. What he's doing now is because in the process of that, he completely destroyed his brand, and his companies are unusually dependent, probably uniquely, singularly dependent on the mystique of Elon as the CEO. And he lit that mystique on fire. Now he's desperately scrambling to figure out, well, because everything proceeds from his paper wealth with Tesla. And I say paper wealth because this is how psychopathic these people are. Understand that when you see Elon as the richest man in the world, or with any of these people, their money is mostly in paper that they cannot turn to cash because that money is largely the stock they hold in that company. If they were to ever try to sell it, it would crash the company's stock and that money wouldn't be there. Like, it's impossible for them to redeem it. This is all a game of status, power, who has the most toys. The money is theoretical. It's a score. It's not even real money. But these guys are competing for that status. But all of the power he has over the political process all go back to his principal money generating engine, which is Tesla. He destroyed the Tesla brand. Now I don't say last year I predicted the Tesla stock was going to go down, and it did a lot. This year I'm not saying that because with the relationship with Trump, you don't know, man. The army could turn around tomorrow and say we're converting all of our transportation to Tesla, right? You know, Trump could throw that to him in exchange for giving hundreds of millions of dollars to campaigns or whatever. As a consumer brand, Tesla will never recover from Elon's time in the government.
Yeah, I
Ever.
agree.
Ever.
I agree.
That's done. That's what this is about. He's trying desperately to create the impression in the public mind that he's against Trump in some way, that he's
Yes,
fighting with
this is
Trump
He
it's
to
so
get
can't
back
do
his
that
brand.
now.
Guys,
It's
I used to sell
there's,
cars. You
there's
guys
no way
have
he
no
can do that.
idea how true what Russ said. Tesla, and maybe I'm a fucking hater because I used to fucking go against them all the time. I used to sell electric vehicle Lexuses, Toyotas, all the. But I used to compete with fucking Teslas all the time. I think they're fucking overrated garbage, especially compared to Chinese electric vehicles. I don't know. Maybe I'm a fucking hater, but I didn't feel like electric Lexuses could easily compete with a Tesla. I always been an old school Elon hater. They fucking get. I would go against these Elon motherfuckers, and they would be for a Tesla just because Elon. Remember, I was selling cars from like 2014 to 2019.
Oh yeah, that's a high point. Yeah, the early days.
This is
The
when
early days.
liberals thought he was Tony Stark, bro. Like
Right.
I will lose against fucking Tesla because of Elon's brand alone, and that's done, bro. Like if you listen to like the shit live like Stephen Colbert. Jimmy Kimmel, they're roasting Elon Musk every night, bro. Like,
That was his customer base.
You said what?
That was his customer base.
Yeah.
The liberals, the libs.
Yeah. The conservatives are not going to go over to buying electric vehicles, not to mention the fact that a lot of that Trump base, they live in rural areas that don't have the charging infrastructure, even if they wanted to, which they don't. But if they did, it's not really feasible where a lot of them live. You cannot replace that lib base with MAGA. You're never getting MAGA to buy Teslas.
Nick is
on
a
large
hater.
Scale.
Well, if you also look at the the infamous connections or the statements that Elon Musk was making throughout all of 2024, he was being all pro-Trump, all antagonistic towards a lot of people, and yes, even his position in controlling X too as well. He didn't make a lot of friends, and in turn, now that Trump seems to be disappointing him, remember, Trump is somebody who doesn't like to be controlled. I mean, obviously, Elon gave money to Trump, but Trump is not someone who's just going to just say yes, sir, and no, sir, to you. He's going to be his own person, and Elon is now realizing that he made a bad investment. And in turn, he also lost the social public support of what kept him popular before the 2024 election cycle, even since then, even before that. So he has to live with it. Plus all of his own personal things. Now people got to know him and how he views about raising families and his idea about breeding and everything else. I know, horrible things to be putting together, Elon and breeding, but it's like, the more you hear about it, it's like, Jesus Christ,
Well,
Elon,
I mean, you want to
get
see
your
the
shit together.
hypocrisy of conservatives. Like, Elon is a violation of everything you fucking people claim you care about. What if you had a huge Democrat donor with fucking 14 baby mamas who's like on a mission to just impregnate as many women as possible? You'd never hear the end. This is what Democrats stand for. It's sick. These are sick people. How many women is he gonna impregnate? And they take his money. You'd never hear the end of it. They'd be jumping up and down about it every day.
This motherfucker slid in Tiffany Fong's DMs.
Oh, that's right. He did do that. Oh,
Tiffany Fong, really nice looking chick, blew up out of nowhere, posting these $20,000 payouts on Twitter. And then after the fallout, she posted screenshots because Elon did her dirty. Elon slid in Tiffany Fong's DM and was like, hey, you kind of hot. You want to have a baby? What kind of shit is this? I like to think I'm a romantic. Like, these billionaires, they psychopaths. They pick up women like, hey, I want to have your baby. And that's what he said to her. And then she was like, I kind of made my whole platform based on Christian, conservative, family values. So I'm kind of going to decline. And after that, Elon Musk fucking blocked her. She stopped getting paid. Like he is a social deviant of the highest fucking order.
Right.
Meanwhile, people among the Christian evangelicals love him. Now there's stories, and I will be, to be fair, it coming from liberal media, and I haven't confirmed it, but there's stories that I believe that Elon Musk was on drug binges on the campaign trail. So this
you know what? It's been reported enough.
It's fine. It's fine. He was.
That was broken by the Wall Street Journal first.
Oh, interesting.
That was January 2024. They did the first like big story about Elon being on drugs, and that's before he even endorsed Trump.
Does it sound unbelievable, guys? Like that sound like the most believable story of all time. This motherfucker's on drugs, DMing chicks on Twitter and asking to impregnate them while waving chainsaws.
Well,
see now, if any of you gentlemen at home did that, you'd be screwed.
Office, right?
Yeah.
You saw the video of him in the Oval Office. He was fucking whacked out of his mind.
Dude, if you fucking look at everything that Elon did, like the chainsaw,
yeah,
everything, the fucking Nazi salute, and then you put it in context. And then
the Roman salute. It was the Roman salute. That's what it was.
Mind. Like when you realize that this motherfucker was high out of his goddamn mind the entire time, the Nazi salute, the chainsaw, the jumping like a teddy bear, all that shit, it makes everything so much more fucking hilarious. And it could easily be a comedy movie if this shit wasn't actually impacting our life, right? But this is the story we're hyping today. We haven't actually got to the actual story, but this is a funny conversation. Elon Musk, like Russ explained, is trying to do everything he can to distance himself from Trump because Tesla is hurting. So now he is condemning this big, beautiful bill, which 100% makes sense because I explained that this bill completely undermines and erases the entire concept of what DOGE was supposed to be about. Because like Russ said, and I think this is 100% true, Elon, his entire thing was to get rid of government agencies that was investigating him. But Elon is like, hey, man, we have to at least make that look believable by actually having government cuts. We can't just get rid of the people regulating me alone and make it too obvious. Even Elon, like, man, it's too obvious of a scam if we don't do something. Mm-hmm. So this is the tweet, and this set out a political firestorm. I saw a statement by the White House where they was simply caught off guard. They was shocked. Caroline Levitt, the white woman, they tell me is 27, but I swear to God she's 45. I don't care what anyone says. But she was like, I'm disappointed in Elon Musk for this statement. Mike Johnson, he's furious about Musk for doing this. And I find this interesting. He said, I'm sorry, but I can't stand it anymore. This massive, outrageous port-filled congressional spending bill is a disgusting abomination. Shame on those who voted for it. You know you did wrong. You know it. So this is a huge split, guys, between Trump and Musk that happened once again way faster than I thought it was going to. Any further thoughts, Kid and Russell, on the story? This is
yeah. I think
is loving this.
I think this is a great reveal into overall how the high echelon of society exists. And I know that Dissidence, you guys cover it. You have the infamous Logan Roy quote, "I love you, but you're not serious people." This is how probably a lot of these rich top 1%ers truly are. They think they have riz like you or game, like Nick, how you said, but they don't. All what they have is their billions of dollars, but these people aren't happy. They're not happy with the beautiful life that they could have or the good that they could do. You know, it's one thing to realize that you have billions of dollars. It's another thing altogether when you have this power and you could help people. You could do something that hasn't been seen before. That's the thought police coming after me. You could have all these people, New York City, baby. Yeah, you could uplift everyone, but they don't because they can't see past their own vanity because they're worried about how they're perceived and they want to be worshipped. They want to be loved. These are people who've never been loved their entire life. These are people who've never been held. These are people who've never been told that it is okay to be you. And, since we believe in this hero worship culture of the rich and powerful, the price is that these people in turn will hurt us. They've been hurt for so long that once they get power, all what they can think about is more power and who they can hurt. And it's us. They don't like us. They pretend to like us. They pretend to put on this mask. but they don't understand the concept of being a human. And that means in the human experience, you have to help your brother, your sister, show love and empathy, which is, I think, being lost more and more as we give the power away to these psychopaths. There you go. That's my little rant.
When getting older and becoming more mature is realizing that the people who came up with the lizard people conspiracy theory was onto something.
Yeah, they are. They're not human. They're not human.
See, the thing is, they're not saying they're really lizards. It's a metaphor. It's a metaphor that these people like humanity. So I'm all for it. I'm all for it now. Anyway, this will be the last segment we do today. I want to keep this 90 minutes today. I know all you guys had very busy schedules. I had a very fun time. You guys can't tell.
No. I love hanging out with you guys. It actually warms my soul to be with and I've got nothing but love for the independent media community and all of our viewers, subscribers, everyone that's helping build us up. Because, folks, who knows what's going to be happening in 2028, but we got to work together. So, yeah.
Yeah, man. I was just, I was in Buffalo for a month and a half, and I was test driving it, because I'm really sick of fucking New York City. And
but what about the pizza? What about the pizza?
I mean, look, they have a Buffalo version of pizza. I tried it. It's like fucking Domino's. They think they have pizza. All right, whatever. You're cute. But overall, their food is pretty good. But I'm not going to move to rent. And because of everything going on in this country, I don't want the golden handcuffs of buying a house, man. Like, I don't want to get trapped here. Like, we might have to go. This is definitely a time, especially for people in our space, to live by heat rules. Don't commit to anything you're not prepared to walk away from in 30 seconds. That's the discipline.
That is very tempting. I might have to reach out to some contacts, like, hey, get me out of the country. There you go. And then
it could come to that, man. Could come to that very quickly.
Yeah, this would be a last story because, and we're not talking about the unhinged Democratic Party. We're not really talking. Like, what we doing? So we spent a good 75 minutes back to MAGA. So this next segment, trust me, we will get to the Democrats. We're going to get there. But I'm going to start here. You guys know how I like to tell a story a little bit. So let's start here. You have the Trump administration who completely failed to achieve peace. But Trump is projecting the idea that he wants peace. That's why I call him a failure, because if you claim you want peace, but you're failing to achieve peace, you are objectively a failure. But what Trump is doing, he essentially is trying to return to the Obama era policy on Iran, because their policy on Iran has been a complete and utter failure. Donald Trump's reversal of the Iran policy was complete and utter failure. Hardline policy on Iran, escalating never-ending conflicts in the Middle East, is a losing strategy. But that's the intro part, because listen to this. U.S. proposes interim step in Iran nuclear talks, allowing some enrichment. Because Iran, as I covered, is a country for religious reasons, not because they're not able to. They never wanted a nuclear weapon. But there are civilian reasons for enrichment, and this is what they say. There's a lot of reasons for them to want this technology, and that's what they want to propose, and that's what they want to pursue. And that is what the Obama-Iran deal was allowing for civilian enrichment. And this is what caused Trump and the neocon right to flip out and lose their goddamn mind. Now, Trump is essentially going back to that policy he called out Biden and Barack Obama for following. To note quickly, Biden, when he took office, doubled down and followed Donald Trump's policy and didn't get back into the Iran deal and doubled down on the hardline stance on Iran. Anyway, this is just the intro. You have people on the right, you have Fox News that had a hard time dealing with this fact that Trump is negotiating for Iran deal in peace. There are people in Israel and Netanyahu, they're upset about this. Mark Levin, he's been really, really struggling with this, because you guys see this is Fox News report. And I don't have time to show you guys this video. You had an 18-minute meltdown from Mark Levin covering this. And the thesis for his segment was, for all intents and purposes, Iran now has a nuclear weapon. So he's essentially saying we might as well consider Iran already nuclear. He is very furious about this. He's trying to be diplomatic about Trump, to Trump, but he's very, very upset about this. Now, you want to know, and I'm covering that very shortly. I've been doing ongoing coverage of this. Because you want to know who is joining the neocon right, there are people who was leaking against Pete Hegseth, and there are people who was getting Pete Hegseth employees who supported peace with Iran fired by saying they framed them as leakers. So there was people working against the anti-imperialist wing in the Trump administration openly. You want to know who's joining the neocon faction in order to push Donald Trump to the right? The Democratic Party. Here's Chuck Schumer.
Oh, God.
This is the strategy of the Democratic Party. You had Hakeem Jeffries who sent out a tweet saying that we would never pursue peace with Russia. Donald Trump is weak on Ukraine. Now Chuck Schumer is saying that Trump is weak on Iran. So the message of the Democratic Party in a situation where they have a layup, we just explained for over an hour how Trump is fucking up. You have a layup.
Schumer is, he's a fanatical Zionist who has he has said things that, God forbid, a Muslim in the Senate said anything equivalent to what he says. This motherfucker got up on stage at AIPAC and literally said, well, they don't believe in the Torah as why they don't believe they deserve the land of Israel. Like, these people don't believe in the Torah. What if a Muslim went up on stage and justified their policy by dismissing anyone who doesn't agree with it as, well, these infidels don't believe in the Quran? You'd never hear the end. That's what he is. He's a fucking psychopathic religious fanatic.
Yeah, he's a genocidal psychopath. You guys know Chuck Schumer openly said that his job is to keep the left pro-Israel. His only job
Did
is
he say that?
Good luck. Good luck.
That's a quote.
Good luck.
His job is to keep the left pro-Israel. That's one. Like, they don't even hide it. That's his job, is to be the infiltrator to make sure the Democratic Party never leave Israel. So listen to this video. There's a lot to say on this. I'll play it.
Well, that's why he's saying this, because Israel wants war with Iran.
He sounds as crazy as anyone you can find on this planet. He is as extreme as he gets. As they talk about MAGA extremism, MAGA fascism, it doesn't get worse than this. This is Chuck Schumer attacking Trump to his right.
When it comes to negotiating with the terrorist government of Iran, Trump's all over the lot. One day he sounds tough, the next day he's backing off. And now, all of a sudden, we find out that Witkoff and Rubio are negotiating a secret side deal with Iran. What kind of bull is this? They're going to sound tough in public and then have a side deal that lets Iran get away with everything? That's outrageous. We need to make that side deal public. Any side deal should be before Congress and, most importantly, the American people. If Taco Trump is already folding, the American public should know about it. No side deals.
All right, great. Taco Trump. That was the best you could come up with. Oh, wow.
Benjamin, can you take your hand out of my ass now?
All right, get it out. Get it out, Benji.
No peace deals. Peace deals is a threat to democracy. They're against peace deals in Ukraine. They're against deals in Iran. This is crazy. This is the policy that Obama supported. You guys understand how far, and this is the ratchet effect that Democrats are responsible for. Trump shifted our policy to the right by having a hardline stance on Iran. And after that, Democrats ran on getting back into the Iran deal. That was what Biden did. Biden ran on getting back into the Iran deal. Then he took office. He was like, hey, we actually agree with Trump on Iran. And I covered this extensively. If you cover me back in there, I explained all the time how Biden essentially copied Trump policy. He was asked by, I think it was Sam Husseini, who we were having on Saturday, by the way. It was one of the base reporters that we follow who asked him, hey, didn't you guys criticize Trump's policy on Iran? I thought you guys was going to reverse that. And then Matthew Miller, one of the people, that was like, nah, we're actually going to continue Trump's policy on Iran. So now Chuck Schumer and the Democratic Party they went from criticizing Trump to the left on this issue, from now criticizing him to the far right, the absolute state of the so-called resistance. And I have to make a victory lap, because I called it because the state of the Democratic Party is a party attacking Donald Trump to the right, and a party that is deeply searching to win over the male vote. They have a plan, guys.
No, this is how you lose it. These are nothing but
rally
fake.
behind the male vote is getting behind Pete Buttigieg, the bastion of masculinity. And guys, to be fair, this is early. You know what I mean? These things can always change. But we're just talking shit. You know what I mean? What did I tell you guys a few months ago? I told you guys that Pete Buttigieg is a fucking danger, and he's clearly the guy that the Democratic Party want to push. Now he is soaring ahead. Right now, if you're only listening right now, he's leading the early primaries, 32%. AOC second place, 19%. Kamala nosedived at 17%. Any reactions to this? I told you guys, Pete Buttigieg is going to be a fucking threat for a long time.
I'm rather surprised that he has been hyped this up after we saw his 2020 campaign end miserably, especially on how he was treated by his former constituents in South Bend, Indiana. I mean, that wine cave, there must have been some extra juice in there for him to boost up his charisma, or people just to look past how much of a crap mayor he was for the people of South Bend. Go ahead and talk to the people of South Bend. They'll tell you how they feel about him. He gentrified their communities, and he turned a blind eye to corruption.
Yeah, man. Who's left in the Democratic Party, really, though? You know, I mean, now it's really boiled down to the libbiest libs in Libland. So that's how you get a poll like that. Like, listen, man, the people who are left in the Democratic Party are just irredeemable. These are people who just absolutely are never going to develop a politics beyond a politics of virtue signaling and empty cultural gestures. So, of course, Pete Buttigieg. That's it. If that's those are the only people in your party, Pete Buttigieg is your perfect candidate.
Bro, they have a historically small bench. There's a reason why they can't get rid of these fucking zombies that are Democratic Party leadership. There's a reason why no Democrat could defeat Joe Biden, because to me, I'm sorry to say, but one of the biggest lies ever told is the fact that Democrats didn't have a primary. Like, the progressive left like to say this, it's cope. Like, they're like, man, if we only had a primary, we could defeat Trump. Y'all motherfuckers did have a primary. The Democratic voters chose Biden. They didn't want you guys. They didn't want Marianne Williamson. So it honestly is kind of cool when people say that. I disagree. But Buttigieg, he's pretty smart because he realized that they have a small bench. He has a bunch of Democratic advisors. And the first advice that they gave him is, hey, man, you got to grow out a beard, man.
Ugh, God, it's terrible.
We need you to grow a beard. That rat face is not it. But right now, they're already doing it because you guys see AOC was number 2. AOC is being propped up. I knew that she's going to be propelled in Democratic Party leadership because Morning Joe started doing like fucking glowing reports about her, giving her raving. The switch was palpable. You know, like the switch when the corporate media realized she was a sellout was so obvious. And they gave her the push. And AOC is now leading the pack. Liberal wine moms love her. And MSNBC is already running propaganda. Big shout out to Case Study QB for finding the script. Because
I know how he sits through it.
Yeah, MSNBC is already setting the groundwork for smearing people as sexist for not supporting AOC, because they say, hey, if Bernie Sanders had a giant campaign and Bernie Sanders is not popular, AOC better have the same, or if you guys are just sexist, misogynistic, it proves our point that the left is sexist.
They hired the Disney PR team.
Congressman. Yeah, they already building, but let's watch the clip and not get your guys' reaction.
Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez has been sharing the stage with Senator Bernie Sanders on the Fighting Oligarchy tour, drawing enormous crowds. Several polls show her emerging as a favorite among Democrats for 2028. Do you see her, Alexi, as a viable option?
Yeah, it's funny because I think a lot of the polls are showing folks with great name ID, and obviously AOC, like Pete Buttigieg, has that. She also has a lot of star power. You see the rallies and the people she's able to bring to these events with Senator Bernie Sanders. The problem, of course, is that we've seen this time again. We've seen it with Kamala Harris, Hillary Clinton. Folks are reluctant to elect a woman to be president, even and especially within the Democratic Party. And folks that I have heard conversationally and otherwise will say straight up, I love Bernie Sanders. I hate that AOC. And it's so interesting when you stop to consider or question why, because it goes to those familiar themes we hear about, oh, I just don't like her. I don't like the way she talks. She's all about herself. She's full of herself. When her ideology is the same as Bernie Sanders and they love him, it's just a different messenger they want.
Boy, that is a conversation we should have. We could do several minutes, a full hour on that kind of thing, big picture. But Alexi McCammon, thank you so much.
That's a person who never talked to a worker in her entire life. And you guys see how the toxic ideology of liberal feminism that leads to the disdain of the working class. The working class is inherently sexist. You guys see the liberal white rich millionaire woman there. She's like, oh my, we can do think pieces on how fucking sexist the disgusting working class is. The fucking disgusting Bernie bros. Meanwhile, Democrats wonder why they're having a male problem, because you have many people like Joe Rogan, many people like me and Kid who was supporting a Bernie Sanders. Then they called us all fucking sexist, misogynistic Bernie bros.
We're bad men, evil men.
Right, years later, like, oh my god, why are we struggling with men? Maybe because you called us all sexist assholes. But anyway, sorry, go ahead, Kid. And
well, the thing is, like, you know, I think I remember, I think it was last month when it was, and Keaton was here, and we were all discussing about an AOC 2028 run, and these are two things are going to happen. It's either she's going to be like this jobber, and it's just going to be just her running around, or it's going to be a lightning in the bottle kind of moment like Bernie Sanders, and still she'll cave to the establishment. But I'm seeing the groundwork lay out for her to be this hero and this titan, which she's not. She's nothing more than a weak paper tiger, but they're going to pump her up so much, and that's a horrible choice of words there, but pump her up so much with the hype and the juice that she will be viewed untouchable. And I'm just wondering, do you have any idea what kind of crap we're all going to be in as soon as we're criticizing her? Because if anyone was wondering about like what happened was forced to vote in 2021, you know, when AOC was being criticized, that's going to be that, but on steroids. All of us are going to be put on that shot and be like, oh, Russ, Nick, Kit, they're bad men because they don't want to see a strong woman succeed. It's like, no, we asked her to fight for forced to vote, and she said it was violence.
One question. Did you see Avengers Endgame? Yes? Yeah. Did you see the Marvels? No. Well, sexist Bernie bros.
Yeah. Yeah.
They're fan baiting us. Yeah, this narrative is total bullshit because we covered the Bowman Sanders Cortez rally in the Bronx over the last summer. And nobody was there, man. They couldn't fill a small park. They literally couldn't fill a small park. There were like a few hundred people there. The only reason people are coming out like this, and the liberals will never say this, they realize they fucked up. They're never going to admit it. They realize they fucked up. And now they're saying, we'll take Bernie and AOC. Fine, we'll take Bernie and AOC. Please come back. Come back, please. That's who's in this crowd.
That's
the people
exactly
who supported them in the first place, we're not there. I don't know anyone from those movements who's still interested in these candidates. The reason you have so many is there's a lot of libs, man. I mean, if you can get them to come out, I mean, somebody's watching MSNBC, right? I mean, so those people are showing up. But the Bernie coalition is gone. That's who's there. So could they get headway? Well, she won't win a primary, as Keaton did say when we talked about this last time.
Right.
Buttigieg, you know, maybe. But when you look at the list of who they have, yeah, man. I mean, you know, start looking at other countries that you can move to, man, because you're looking at Republican hegemony as far as the eye can see. They still don't get it. That's what's so amazing. For so long, they've had only a politics of empty cultural posturing that even with this devastating loss, the total collapse of the power of their party at every level, you know, man, you can't make gold out of dog shit. You know, they tried for centuries. Like, they are who they are. Like, now they've built their entire party around people who have no concept of any politics outside of that. And even in the face of this, they can't course correct. If you look at that clip, man, they're still talking this shit. They're still talking this shit because you got so many. All of the it's all a make work institution for the children of the professional managerial class and the elites. This is all a jobs program for them, and their whole operation is built around these hollow identitarian platitudes. They wouldn't even know how to talk any other language of politics. They have no idea how to talk about economics, how to talk about class, because it's all made up of, as you say, privileged people who never talked to a worker in their life. They wouldn't even know what to say about that.
Yeah, they their game plan was to say fuck to. They wanted to establish a dominant era of neoliberalism by suppressing the left because they thought they could win based on Trump derangement syndrome.
Right.
It was a gamble. Trust me, it was a risky gamble. And if they would have pulled it off, it would have greatly benefited them and their donors. That's why we were so adamant about them losing. Because if the neoliberals would have had their way, fucking the neoliberal era would have been stronger than ever. Now they're weakened. Now they got to concede somewhat to the Social Democrats in their party, who will ultimately be too weak to create change. But now they got to pretend that people who they deem to be irredeemable, now they support them, like Bernie Sanders. There are people like Neera Tanden who was openly praising Bernie, and I feel like I'm in the fucking Twilight Zone seeing Neera Tanden saying, "Oh my God, Bernie is killing it with it." Like, she praised Bernie in AOC.
Right.
Like, we're in complete twilight, and then you have people like Rogan, who was audacious, and he was like, "Let me test the water."
Hey, wait, take that back. Audacious. That's not Rogan. Horrible choice of words there.
He decided to go on RBN because he like, let me test the waters here, because we're gonna try to do this again. And he asked me a question. He was like, "Hey man, if hypothetically, I'm just saying, hypothetically, if I was to do this, or if AOC, let's say AOC was to run again, will you support them? You will support them, right?" I was like, "No," and he was legitimately shocked. Like, I was shocked that he was shocked. He was like, "Wait, you wouldn't?" I'm like, "No, what? Are you serious?" You had AOC, who said one of the most disgusting pro-genocide lies of all time when she said Biden
I saw that.
was tirelessly working for a ceasefire. And now you have AOC, who is openly citing, because she wants to be president one day, she wants to primary Chuck Schumer one day. She, despite taking no money from AIPAC, she is openly selling out to the Israeli lobby so she can get more political power. But here's our friends at Black Agenda Report bringing up how AOC voted to back Israel's lobby bogus anti-Semitism definition. So AOC directly voted on a resolution that conflated anti-Semitism with anti-Zionism and criticism of Israel. Meanwhile, people like Hassan Piker still likes her. Isn't that crazy? Isn't it crazy that there are people like Kyle Kalinske, Hassan Piker, and them that still pretend, Sam Cedar, they still pretend she's a good person. And now she's pretending an attack on Zionists is an attack on the Jewish people. I am horrified by last night's horrific attack in Boulder, which you cannot convince me that Mossad had nothing to do with it, by the way. My heart is with the victims in our Jewish communities across the country. Anti-Semitism is on the rise here at home, and we have a moral responsibility to confront it and stop it everywhere it exists. So this is AOC, the leading progressive candidate, that is siding with the ADL, siding with Jonathan Greenblatt to censor Americans by smearing peace activists as anti-Semitic. Because that's the data that they quote. Ask someone what data you're using when you talk about the rise of anti-Semitism. They quote the ADL every single time. Every single time they quote the ADL. And the ADL is specifically citing anti-Israel protests as anti-Semitic incidents. So that's the left-handed now. But Russ, any last thoughts on the story And then we can begin to wrap up.
Yeah. Here's the thought. First of all, it does sadden me that there's a lot of people who went to these, fight the oligarchy tour, and I understand the hopium copium and the need to, I don't know, feel good about yourself. But the thing is, you're only delaying the inevitable, that these politicians will still screw you over, that they still will hunt you down, and that they still will dismiss you and use you. So, to anyone that's so afraid, I get it. I understand what it means to want to hold on to the hope and I think that somehow a politician will save you. I learned that lesson after 2020. They're not going to help you. They're not who they say they are. And it's only for a way to trick you so that way they could trust on your vote and your silent, obedient consent. So AOC being hyped up as this 2028 runner. Yeah, fine. But for those who are going to fall for it, we welcome you in open arms once you wake up to reality. But at that time, the AI overlords will take over. So, it doesn't matter.
I actually posted something about this because after the embassy shootings, I didn't really see the libs try to virtue signal off that too much. For the most part, they've been scared to get into this. They'd rather stick to standing up for tuck swimsuits at Target and that kind of shit that they're used to fucking getting into. But this one, a little bit they did. And I said, one of the things I really hate is when non-Jewish people decide to virtue signal off of this and signal to Zionists that they support them when something like this comes up, because you are reinforcing and accepting their definition of anti-Semitism. And by helping them to conflate Zionism with Judaism, you're actually endangering Jews around the world. Because to paraphrase Caitlin Johnston, nothing Stormfront could ever have done is going to drive anti-Semitism more than watching people commit a genocide under a Star of David flag. That is putting us all in danger. When you see these virtue signaling lib fucking morons go, I stand with my Jewish community. That's not the fucking Jewish community. That's the fucking Zionist community. And you know what? I don't support what the guy did at any way you slice it, it's counterproductive. It's not good for the movement to have incidents like that. Even he said, and I have to believe this was a very specific choice of words, he wanted to delete all Zionists. He didn't say Jews. He said Zionists.
I love how all these recent attacks, these people are looking right at the camera and giving their motive away because that's
there's that too. There's that.
Yeah,
too.
there's a lot of questions how perfect that was. That was way too perfect. It was absolute cinema.
Egyptian national. Look at this Egyptian national.
I don't know why.
God. And what that looks like is it looks like a drunk on the south side of Chicago, man.
Once again, I think there's nothing wrong with just putting theories out there, right?
He's from the Jacksonville side of Egypt.
This Egyptian national looks right. Who've been preparing for years? Preparing with who, by the way? What organization has a history with helping prepare quote unquote extremists and helping them commit these kind of terrorist attacks? It's almost like the FBI, who is ran by hardcore Zionist Kash Patel right now. Almost like they have a history of doing it. Once again, it's just theory. I'm not saying this is facts. It's a theory. This motherfucker, who is an undocumented Egyptian national, I'm just saying that this has the fingerprints of the Mossad, and every single attack, they all do the same damn thing. Screaming free power. I'm going to attack the Zion. Hey, guys, I'm going to give you guys my motive. Guys.
And nobody wants to get away?
Non-organized political violence is a waste. You know what I mean? Because I do believe that that's a legitimate way you can have change. If you have an organized militia, you have an organized plan to action, and you are defending your communities. You know what I mean? If we're being attacked, there's valid self-defense of your communities, and there are valid plans of action you can take when you have an organized structure. Random acts of violence like this, like Russ said, it's 100% counterproductive, and that is what Marxists preach. Like, nigga, we talking about we need to be smart. The fuck? Why would you do this attack which legitimizes the anti-Semitism host that the state needs to crack down on free speech, is not good strategy. Not even me. Is that a pacifist argument? It absolutely is not. My argument is that this is a bad strategy, motherfucker. We need a coordinated strategy on how we engage in things like attacking a pipeline, attacking arms munitions. Like, imagine we got together and we wiped out a plant sending weapons to Israel. People may call us terrorists, but that's a legitimate action. That's not what this is. So don't pretend. Don't try to be an edgy radical. Say, "Oh, I support this guy." No, he is doing the bidding of the Mossad and the Zionist regime by having undisciplined acts of violence and quote unquote. I wouldn't call this revolutionary action because it's not disciplined. You have a disciplined. Right. That is my thought. Maybe people disagree with me, but this is my thoughts, and this is why I studied. This is why I know you need to have a smart plan of approach, because I'm not against like direct action. Let me just say that. But I'm against stupid ass shit. Period. Mm-hmm. And this is stupid ass shit that is 100%. And I'm not saying it's a fact. I want to be clear because it's a theory. But this reeks of Mossad shit. These attacks reeks of Mossad shit to legitimize the anti-Semitism host. This is looking right. Like, this look like a guy. Anyway, I stop. Anyway, Kid, any final thoughts? We can begin to wrap up.
Just be safe out there, folks. And, now's the time to really protect yourselves at all time. Be careful who you trust. Be self-aware of your surroundings. Because now more than ever, I fear that there's going to be a major crackdown on independent media. I've been warning about this for quite some time. And I remember one conversation way back a few years ago where one person I did talk to was like, yeah, sure. And looking down. And you know what? I now I kind of want to look back at that MF and just smack him in his mouth. But, it is rather disturbing just how quick things are moving and how I see it all playing out. So to everyone watching, just double check and triple check you're still subscribed to your favorite content creators like RBN, like Do Dissidence, like Hardlands Media, and try and help out each other as much as you can so that we can build a better future. We're going to go live. And mutual aid. Mutual aid is key. So, 9 a.m. Central, I'll be live tomorrow, Wicked Wednesday morning, and nothing but love for the independent media community and nothing but love for all the beautiful people. That's all.
Man, critical solidarity to the Hardlands Media community. If you know, you know, but we need critical support for Kid Cabello. One last thing before I pass it to Russ. And I implore this because the liberal faction of the Free Palestine movement annoys me in a lot of ways. I let a lot of stuff go, you know what I mean? Because I think it's important for us to have a united coalition against Zionism, even with people I disagree with. But liberal anti-Zionists really annoy me, you know what I mean? Because they legitimize the anti-Semitism psyop. They will say, "Oh yeah, there is some examples." No, I am around the most radical among the Free Palestine movement, and they say all the time that, "Hey, we have nothing against Jews." In the Hamas fucking charter, they said there's nothing against Jewish people. It's about fighting settler colonialism. We have a movement that is marching with Jewish people. You understand? We marching with Jewish Voice for Peace. We are marching with Jewish activists who oppose genocide. I have zero patience, my friends, for anyone who legitimizes the anti-Semitism psyop. I said it 1,000 times, and I will continue to say it. I will concede that Nazis like Nick Fuentes are anti-Semitic, but Nazis hate everybody. The fuck that means? You know what I mean? So I am strongly opposed to the liberal anti-Zionists who legitimize the psyop. You are completely counterproductive, and you're legitimizing the fascist takeover of the United States and the crackdown on free speech. But we should be holding the line strong. There's no rise of anti-Semitism. Yes, Nazis exist. They always exist. They hate black people too. There's nothing unique. You know what I mean? But Russ, I can hear the final thoughts. That's my last rant of the day. I will never forgive AOC. I will never forgive anyone who supports this crackdown on free speech and legitimizing Jonathan Greenblatt bullshit. But go ahead, Russ.
Yeah, we got into this a little bit with Gabor Mate on Jimmy's show yesterday. I
gotta watch that.
My experience going out to these protests is you will never hear that kind of thing from Palestinian people, from Muslim people, from Arab people. or even really at a protest. Where there is an anti-Semitism faction that's glommed onto the pro-Palestine movement, it's like Nazi keyboard warriors who feel emboldened to push their ideology. Oh yeah, well, you see what they're doing in Palestine? Well, maybe the funny mustache man wasn't so crazy, right?
The only thing I would say is, because that's definitely a thing, is that's not a rise in anti-Semitism, because that's always was a thing. These are the people that are like, oh my God, I can't believe these people finally fighting the Jews.
They're taking advantage of it to try to push their own agenda and propaganda. There is that there. But yeah, man, look, it was the same whenever we did Bernie rallies at the height of the Bernie bro sexist thing. When you know the establishment's against you, you triple and quadruple make sure not to give them any ammunition. And then you look at the other side that knows they have a free pass. Those are the people who are fucking horrible, because they'll never get called out on it. Look up an article. I've used this many times over the years. This is what happens to a woman when she supports Bernie online. Amazingly, this article was in the Huffington Post, and it was Emily Ratajkowski, the model, was a Bernie supporter, and they showed all this stuff. Shut up and show us your tits. I knew you must be stupid except for your great tits. Like, yo, stuff that if they had that on Bernie people, they would have gone berserk. You never heard a word. That's the only article I ever saw like that really showed that. So when you know you're being scrutinized like that, your people police themselves in a way that, look, when you see people screaming, the very first, October 8th, man, I went to Times Square to cover a protest, and there were the Zionist counter protesters. The people yelling genocidal, dehumanizing shit were all Zionists, man. They were all Zionists. They're screaming, you don't, there is no Palestine. It's your imaginary land. Like, that, because they know they're not going to get any pushback no matter what they say. So they just let it with violent threats. That was all coming from the Zionist side. Actually, the Palestine side, the pro-Palestine side, Arabs, Muslims, they actually took it kind of in stride and like good humor when they were yelling these things at them, because they expect that from those people.
You had funny that you mentioned that, because here it is. I can't believe I found it. So, because as they were calling us Bernie Bros, you had Kamala Harris team up with this guy Kenny, and Kenny used to make these videos where he used to call AOC, Pramila Jayapal, all sorts of bitches. He was calling them whores.
Oh no, here we go.
Really? I never.
Oh yeah, no, I remember this dude. I remember him.
I posted it on the show before. We pretty much done with the show. I don't want to dive into. There's like a compilation where he like, fuck that AOC bitch, fucking slut, because like the most misogynistic people you would find are like liberal gay people, because they think because they're gay they can call women bitches. And maybe they are. I don't know. Women, let me know. Are they allowed to do that? Because this gay dude is like the most misogynist motherfucker you will ever see. He like, that fucking bitch Pramila Jayapal, fuck that slut Nina Turner. I'm like, damn. But meanwhile, here he is meeting the Democrat nominee for president. Just to illustrate your point, Russ. Meanwhile, imagine if we had a prominent Bernie supporter who met Bernie Sanders, who was making videos calling Kamala Harris a slut. Someone said, "Play it, bro." I need to find it.
Yeah, we gotta find it. They're probably out there.
Video. I want to let my friends go, but I played it before on RBN. I had to search my account. It's a compilation video of him screaming into the. I'm gonna see if I can find it, but I won't get anyone out here. But anyway, make sure I have Sam Husseini join me on Saturday. I might play it as a video to end the stream on, just so you can see the fucking liberal people post. I'm gonna see if God damn it, that would be a funny ass video ending on. But anyway, it's not that important though. He's like the perfect example of like the fucking scumbag sexist liberal. I won't be able to find this quick.
I might show it one day. They have impunity.
I might show it one day. But I showed it before on RBN though. But anyway, hope you guys enjoy watching. Make sure you guys follow Kid Cabello. He's live tomorrow. What do Dissidence got coming up? I know
they got a lot of stuff happening.
We're doing another stint on Jimmy's. We're going to be on Monday on Jimmy's. Obviously, our show will be on Sunday at 7. And then we're doing like the Monday and Wednesday the following week because he's going to Europe. He's going to be in London.
Nice. All right, make sure you guys check out the Dissidence. We're in the stream here. Another great show post Duopoly. Make sure you guys like, share, subscribe, support us on Patreon. Have a good night, guys. Peace out, y'all.